Right. Tanya, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
Doing really well, Adam, and it's a real privilege and honor to be on your podcast. And I know you're all about positivity, and that's what I'm about too.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm really grateful that you're on the podcast, and it's really good to connect with you. And I think like you're basically the CEO of Champagne Life Coaching. You've been involved in business. You've also worked in like the hair salon industry, and now you're in coaching. Like, kind of, what's tell a bit more about yourself, like your story, kind of how you kind of got into all this.
Okay, so yeah, I was born in South Africa. I live in the UK. I married an Englishman 28 years ago. And you asked how I got into it. Basically, three years ago, my husband passed away tragically, quickly. And I was just thrown into a world of darkness. And a domino effect of losing my home, financially stretched, loss of identity, loss of love, and all this tangible loss caused me to realize. And even though I was in the beauty industry as a beauty therapist, beauty lecturer, I realized that no matter how beautiful you are on the outside, or how you make yourself beautiful on the outside, on the inside you can feel so ugly. And so I thought, well, if there is makeup to make us look better and clothes to make us feel better, there has to be techniques to make the inside feel better. And so I started looking within, and all I had left in my mind at that time in my life was my feminine insight, my gut, my intuition, my belief that there has to be a way to survive all this darkness and get through it. There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and I was going to do my utmost to find that light. And so what I did was, through the last 3 years, I started becoming very mindful and very present of what my mind and body was saying to me. And I started writing it down and journalizing, and then formulating this into a strategy and a technique that could help me get through each day. And I came up with the name Champagne Life Coaching because champagne is symbolic of taking a grape, something just normal, and making it into something beautiful, luxurious, and effervescent, and something that can symbolize your wins, your gratitude for those wins, and doing it with the people you love. And so I thought, if I built my business around that theory, getting out from something ordinary or something dark and making it into something luxurious, something that you can celebrate. I found that using the Celebrate formula, which is a formula that's been formulated for Champagne Life Coaching, and it's based on each letter of celebrate, and each letter is a module. Do you want me to share one of the modules with you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So CEL on Celebrate, when you get to the L, it actually means liquid gold confidence. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm going through a trial or something really stressful, I feel my confidence seems to go down. And so in order just not to have confidence, I thought we need liquid gold confidence. Because if you look at something that's gold and it's made into a mold, a ring, or an earring, it's still got elements of lead and elements of impurity to strengthen it. And I thought, well, that's okay, because confidence is okay. But if we have pure liquid gold confidence, you can reflect purely what's on the inside, and you can make the invisible become the visible. And you can take, your expression and deepen it with impression by making yourself face your fears, elevate your respect, and just, basically take the intangible and make it tangible. And so that's what the one module was all about. And I believe in the last 3 years, I've done that, going from losing my home, losing my husband, losing my identity, financially stretched, to building a business and helping executives, CEOs, founders, and especially females to go into their feminine side and use their gut, use their intuition, use this to get them through trials. And so that's where I am today, and that's how I met you, and I'm really privileged.
Yeah, no, it's such an awesome story and journey, I think, that you've been on. And like you mentioned, having multiple losses, having things not work out, and certain life events happen, which they have happened with yourself, and then kind of taking that and those experiences and channeling that energy into creating something, and you mentioned, which is, I think, a really big thing, people, we create this mask, we, like you said, no matter how you look on the outside, people, you might, how you feel on the inside might not reflect how you kind of look on the outside. If that makes sense. People
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't always see that. People see others, they look great, but then you can't always see what's going on inside, really. And I think that's something that we have to work with as being human, isn't it? We put up on a front, but we have to deal with what's going on the inside, if that makes sense. And you've kind of turned around these events that have happened, and created a business and to helping other people, and using your experience, with that as well.
Yeah, you're so right when you say you got to take your experience, you got to take your story, and you got to make it work for someone else out there who may need that inspiration. And to lose my husband, who was with me from the age of literally 14 years old right up until 44. So I lost him when I was 44. It was a lifetime of investment. It was a lifetime of goals. Your whole life can just flash before you, and you can choose. Adam, is a choice. You can choose to let the darkness envelop you, or you can choose to take each step and celebrate each step. I mean, after Dom died, just to get up in the morning, you know, just to wake up and open your eyes and get out of bed was a big win for me. And then to take the step of just to go out for a walk, or take the step of to start reading positive stuff. These are all little steps, but they all add up. It's like stitches in a garment, or the bubbles in the effervescence of a glass of champagne. It's all those bubbles that make the effervescence, and it's the little bubbles, and it's the little bubbles that we celebrate in life: the getting out of the bed, the reading of that book, the 5-minute walk. So it's not about taking giant leaps. It's about taking small steps and then celebrating those small steps. And each step is that journey that gets you closer to where you want to be and make the intangible tangible.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like you said, there's those small steps which are big steps in themselves, aren't they, really? And like you said, when you lost your partner, you know, getting out of bed, just doing the normal things, little things, quite difficult. But it's those things that we can't take for granted, because just going for a small walk, getting up in the morning, for some people that is really, really difficult based on whatever scenario.
Mm.
Um, And I think it's really important, like you said, to be grateful and to keep that in mind, isn't it? Really, because it's those 1%. It's those, like I said, those small bubbles in like this, the champagne, for example. Um,
Yeah.
it's all in the stitches in the garment. It's all those things that kind of tie in together. And if you can't do those small things, how are you going to be able to do the other things? If so it all kind of interconnects, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I love the way that um we find gratitude. I had a tweet come up from Jim. um is it Jim Quick? Yeah. He
Yeah, Jim
said,
Quit. Yeah,
today, be grateful for the problems you don't have. And I didn't realize that when I was going through this dark period and celebrating each little moment, like you said, getting out of bed or eating properly, or getting closer to where I wanted to be in having this business, um, you just think to yourself, well, I'm still alive. I've still got my eyesight. I've still got my hearing. I've still got my legs. I'm still able to breathe. I'm still able to help another human being. I'm still, I'm still this whole person that can serve. And when you find that you are grateful for those little things, which I didn't actually know how. I didn't know how to be grateful for the things, the little things. I always felt that only when the big things came along in life, the big wins, the big job, the graduation, the money. I always thought that was the win. But that lesson of finding happiness in seeing a bird fly across your head when you're walking, or to see the intensity of a green grass, or to see the strength of a dandelion growing through the brick of a wall coming that you're walking past. You're looking at these things from another point of view, and you start seeing nature, you start feeling more gratitude, and you start being present in that moment instead of thinking about the past, what it was like, or maybe what the future will be like and what you don't have anymore, but just being in the present and celebrating. They even got to a point where I was saying, right, you need to find gratitude in the tarmac you're walking on. You need to find gratitude in the stone that's just flipped up in front of your foot. And that taught me to just have this habit of finding gratitude in everything and not seeing things negatively, even though they still come up. Negative things do come up, but the habit of being present, being grateful, celebrating, building your confidence, elevating your respect, building emotional intelligence, and just being a better person to serve other people.
yeah, most definitely. And I think, like you said, taking notice is a big thing. And I think, during COVID and things like that, I think that's one thing that stood out for me as well. Like, being grateful for what you do have and looking at what you do have opposed to what you don't have. And I think we kind of live in that society where sometimes, we are chasing the money, or we're chasing whatever it is that we think is going to buy happiness. And,
Mm,
to some degree, like, it's okay to do that, but I think, you have to be realistic and be grateful. And if you're just always tied into that chasing the next thing, you're
mm,
kind of trying to fill a void almost that can't be filled. And if you can look at the things that, appreciate the small things, and like you said, like the wind, the birds, nature, being
mm,
grateful because we are connected, it's all energy, we're connected to people, nature, what goes on around us.
mm,
And like you said, it's appreciate, I do it with trees. I like really, see a tree and I think, wow, it's that, or plants that didn't start off like that. It was a seed and it grew and it had to go through the elements to get to where it is. And that's like, people in life, isn't it? So it gives you that perspective almost. And, like you said, being grateful for getting up in the morning and having your health and you know, a roof over your head, whatever it is, your eyesight, your hearing, because, you know, there's many people out there that might not have that, you know, for whatever circumstance. And we have to be grateful for our lives and, you know, notice those small things. And, you know, it might be opening the door for somebody, it might be saying hello or smile or whatever it might be. It all kind of has that effect, doesn't it? And being present, you know, like you said, is definitely key for your mental, emotional well-being. You know, this kind of goes on, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for, I mean, because Don passed away in 2018. I lost my home 2019. There was an investigation, an inquest. I was financially stressed. I was depressed. I went on antidepressants. I couldn't think straight. So 2019, I was actually literally not there. You know what I mean? I was there as a person, but not there.
Yeah.
And then just as I was coming right, January, February, March, you know, of 2020, I was about to open a beauty salon here in the UK, in the area I live. And I was going to start a new life. And it was going to be open on the 17th of April, 2020. And of course, we went into lockdown. And then I had to grieve because I was coming out of the shock and I was starting to grieve and realize, and then the shock of COVID, and then the shock of not being able to get my salon going, my beauty salon. And then I thought, what can I do? You know, instead of thinking about what I can't do and what I've lost, what can I find? And what can I be? And I think just asking those two questions made an impact. So I thought to myself, well, I've used these strategies of being present and finding the positive and just keep going. How can I use that to help somebody else, and in what area? And I thought, well, I've been, you know, I've had my own companies. I've at a school where I've lectured as a beauty therapist. I've been lecturing in schools and colleges, and I've also had beauty salons, and I was a mobile therapist. And I just thought, you know, being thrown into being a widow, and the vulnerability of being alone without your partner that you've had since you were 14, you know, years old, you feel this vulnerability. And I thought, who feels the most vulnerable in the world, in the workplace? But they don't want misplaced sympathy or misplaced pity. They are unsung heroes in the workplace. And I thought of once I was with a charity and I was doing executive work, and there was some issues with the trustees and things like that. And I was the only woman sitting on the board, and there was like 20 men. And I'm talking a good 15 years ago. And the vulnerability that I felt as a widow, and the vulnerability that I felt in that position. And I thought, right, put the two together, help executive directors who are advocating for their team and advocating for the board and the shareholders, and take these things that you've learned, because at the end of the day, no matter what degree they have, these women, no matter what status they have or how strong they are, at the end of the day, inside, we're still women. We still feel as women. And we're still going to have issues in relationships. We're still going to have issues at work. We're still going to have death. We're still maybe going to have more wars. How do you help these women stay in their workplace, but coming from a place of strength that I felt that I came from, and helping them get through all these personal issues, but stay in the workplace, stay stable, and not lose, because so many people are, like, committing suicide because of not finding a solution, or not having somebody's to hold you up or be a pillow, you know. And so executive directors came to mind. And so 2020, what can I find? I'm going to find a way to be a life coach, study. I got online, studied. I studied every day, morning till night. I got my hours in. I got a distinction in being a life coach. And I got my certificate. I'd never been on social media. Right up until the end of 2020, I didn't know what Facebook was. I didn't know what Instagram was. I knew nothing. I had to start learning all these platforms. And because my budget was so tight, I started looking for free online courses. And of course, the beauty of COVID was that there was a lot of courses out there to help people learn this, so they can, when COVID ended, they can go back into the work situation. And so I must have done about 10 or 20 courses on social media, thinking ability, the brain, psychology, and I put all that together in my business and developed the formula called Celebrate. And it's a 9-module which helps people to stay in the workplace, leaders, founders, but to keep their dignity, emotional intelligence, work with teams on a empathetic, with empathy level. So that's what happened in 2020 and 2021. I took the whole year 2021 and just did volunteering work. So anybody who wanted to be coached, I coached them, and I got the experience. And then basically around about January this year, I monetized the business. So it was baby steps. It was a lot of learning. It was a lot of sacrifice. But I found more than I'd lost. That's really the point.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible, like the resilience that you've gained and the momentum you've built in the period of time. And I think like you said, you've had your business and the salon you was going to launch in COVID, and then COVID hit, and then that was another knockback, and then it was a shocking experience with COVID, on top of your loss of your partner and everything else that came with it, and then deciding on what is it I'm going to do, and then turning to working on yourself, and then taking your experience and putting it into something, and building on that. And like, I think the key thing, like, is being accountable, isn't it? Taking accountability for your situation and doing something about it in a positive way, and then kind of doubling down on that, and launching what you're doing, and then volunteering and coaching people and getting that experience, isn't it? Because that's how things, there's a process to it, and that's how things work. And that's something that I learned as well, that we can't click our fingers and get to XYZ. There's those steps and that process, but you can look back on that and kind of see the growth, and where you are now, and what you're doing and helping other people. And sometimes in life, we have to go through those situations, don't we? We have to go through that process to become, it's a bit like a butterfly almost. It's like you kind of go through that process. Yeah. And that's something that I can relate to as well.
I love that analogy, Adam. I mean, it's transformation, isn't it? I mean, you transform from a hairy worm to this beautiful, delicate but strong butterfly. And I once read the story, if you don't mind me,
it's fine.
the analogy, that there was the pupa of the butterfly, and somebody saw it, and the butterfly was trying to get out of the pupa. So they took a scissors and actually cut the pupa to make it easier for the butterfly. And when the butterfly emerged, it couldn't fly. It couldn't fly because apparently the whole process, as you mentioned, the process of struggling, the process of pushing, persevering under severe hardship, especially that butterfly, it didn't strengthen its wings. because while it's trying to get out of the pupa, it's actually strengthening its wings so that it's able to fly. And I think that's what happened through the last 3 years. I changed from, my whole identity changed from being, a wife and a supporter, and to being a widow and single and no support, and no home, and no financial support, and just boom. So I had to literally transform. And that fight to get out of the situation and know that I'm going to become something better made me able to fly. It wasn't easy, but here we are. I'm talking to you and I'm alive to tell the story.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And I think it's a really strong story, isn't it? Like with the butterfly and, your story as well. And I think it's that, if you make the process easier, at the early stages, it's not, like you said, the end stage won't be the same. There has to be that struggle sometimes in life, sometimes for, I believe everything happens for a reason. But like it's sad when things do happen to people. But I mean, like, in that process, there's something within that's going to propel you, isn't there, into something else. And you can take that experience and you can help other people and give back and provide value. And there are other people who've probably gone through similar situations to yourself who can find inspiration and know that there is, a light at the end of the tunnel, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, because when that caterpillar is in the pupa and it's actually transforming, it's a mess. It's just a mess. It's goo. It has no form. And if any of your community or anyone out there listening to this, you feel like you're in a mess, or you've got no form, you've got no direction, you just don't know where you're going, just know that the next step is transformation. Just know that if you keep pushing through it and you keep, finding a way, have a coach, have a mentor, have someone you trust to speak to give you that formulated guidance and that pillar, because I mean, I have coaches and I have mentors, and you cannot get through that gooey, messy stage and transform without the support of other people, a parent, and someone you trust, a mentor, a coach, or just talking.
Yeah, no, I strongly agree. I think that's so true, is it? We need other people to have their input and to, hold us accountable, to kind of challenge us maybe in some way, make us look at things, because we all have blind spots as human beings, and sometimes we need people to
Mm.
kind of, have their direction, their perspective. And, that can be difficult sometimes but there's only growth in that, isn't there, really? And if you're helping other people, we need that ourselves as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an integrated example, we mentioned being present. I mean, there's a lot out there, be present, but how do you do it? Well, as a coach, I've got a formula that's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you just stop and you look at 5 things you see, you look at 4 things you hear, and you take that in, absorb that. And then you focus on 3 things that you can feel, whether it's emotionally or literally with your hands. And then 2 things that there's a scent, a smell. And then even 1 thing you taste. And if there's not 1 thing you can't taste, then think of a taste that gives you, happiness or pleasure. And if you just stop and do that in the day, just those 15, 20 seconds of focusing on, what do I see? What do I hear? Or what do I feel, emotionally or physically? What can I smell? and what are the scents, and what is the taste of things, because memory is connected to scent, and there's nothing more that evokes memory than scent. So if you want to remember a moment in time, the best thing is to focus on your senses, and especially scent, because our memory in our brain is connected to our scent in our nose, and our taste of food is connected to our nose. So we may not think that our nose is so important, but it is. It's really important to memory, to life, all our senses. And that's how our brain extracts the meaning out of life, because people go through life saying, what's the meaning of life? Do I just, hatch, match, and dispatch? No, we create memories. We like this canvas, and we create the memories. We put the interpretation on those memories. We give the perspective, and so that's the beauty of being a human. But we've made it into a problem because we want television, the internet to provide all those sensory stimulations. But that's an imposition on the free will of being a human. Because if you go outside now and you take 10 people, you put them in the same place, and you ask them, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? And what do you taste? Those 10 people, you will probably give you different answers. Maybe one or two will give you the same answers. But what is the perception that they've put on that smell, or the perception of what they see? And that's where humans are so beautiful and so creative and innovative. And that's where life begins, and that's where life becomes beautiful.
No, I love that, and I think that's so true. You mentioned with your senses and taking in the world, and I think like it's what and creating memories and how that manifests in us and in life. And it's like, as you were saying that, I was thinking about restaurants I've been to or places I've been, and the smells. And when you're considering those things that you mentioned, sight, smell, etc., you really absorb, more. You absorb what's going on around you in that experience more. And like, if you sometimes smell a certain fragrance or whatever, it can tie you back to that memory. Or you taste something, because sometimes it's happened where you can smell something, and then you're like, oh, that reminds me of XYZ or a certain person or whatever. So, and as you mentioned, like in life, people, they're seeking this sensory overload through, what's the right word, means through like a device or like the internet or certain things. I mean, there's nothing wrong going on your phone, but there has to be that balance. But if people are demanding those senses, that sensory, those senses to be filled through that, then it's not too good, and then that creates other issues. But like, it's far more effective to go out into real life scenario and to have that experience.
Yeah, because the purpose of having eyes, having a nose, having a mouth, having ears, and having hands. I mean, if anybody forgets 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just think of the appendages on your face: your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, and then your arms and your hands. Your hands are an extension of your 5 senses. I did reflexology, and I taught reflexology, and I did I did an advanced study in reflexology, and each finger represents a part of the brain. For example, the thumb is the thinking ability, the middle finger is the doing, the emotional, the third finger is what you do, the fourth finger is your relationships and friendships, and the last finger is your family. And these are all extended. That's why our arms run all the way through the vagus vein. to our senses. So even though we're using these senses, we've got to use these. We've got to use our hands. And that's why if we're not working, if we're just sitting and you're taking in from the media and you're just using your eyes, maybe your ears to hear the audio, you're not, I mean, there's no way you can smell anything on the internet. There's just no way that they've learned to convey scent through the internet. And you can get sensations from the internet. But when you're using your hands and you're making something, you're baking, you're cooking, you doing art, or you're cleaning, or you're making something better. When you're using these, you are stimulating the nerve endings, which will stimulate the senses in your head, which is related to those 5 senses in your body. So, Adam, it's so important that people get up and they move around, but not only move around, that they start using their hands to create. And that's why it's good to have a hobby that's creating.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's really, really true, and I can definitely identify with that. And like my day job, I work in an office, so I'm in an office 9 to 5, and majority of clients I talk to are over the phone.
Yes.
And when I'm on my break, I notice the difference. I feel just getting up out of the chair, moving around, getting outside, being in the sunlight.
Yeah.
I recognize that in my side. It's like a thermostat, isn't it? Really, I think you have to recognize when there's time to get up or there's time to go outside, and I mean that's really key. Like you said, we have to, be stimulated from what's going on around us, being in nature, that movement, and we're not really designed to stay stationary all the time. So I think it's definitely key. You mentioned it's interesting what you said about the fingers, because
Yeah.
sometimes if I can feel like tension sometimes,
Yeah.
not recently, but sometimes, yeah, and I get it in random places in like your finger, and you kind of think, why is my that it might just be a random finger, and you think, why is that like feeling that way?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And you said something interesting that, that's very rare. And I'm really happy you brought that up, that you are aware when you need to get up, when you need to stimulate, or you need to use, that now moment to be present. Not many people are aware of that. They're not mindful of it. And so if there is anyone listening right now and they're not mindful of when they should get up, or they're in the habit of sitting for hours and hours, you can actually set your alarm. And this is really important, because you will add a dimension to your life if you do get up and you do use the 5 4 3 2 1 method, and you do start creating memories out of nothing and making your life richer, because no one else is going to do it for you. And what we do as humans, we're waiting on the external, we're waiting for other people. And this is what taught me when I lost Don, because most of my family is in South Africa. I lost Don, we went into COVID. I had nobody around me, and I don't have children, don't have family here. I was so isolated and so alone, and all I had was my own ability to create a sense of being and connection. And you do that through connecting with the outside world, like you said, making those memories. And so I have the most beautiful memories. I can tell you now this with the honesty of heart. My most beautiful and connected memories was during COVID. Everyone was going, I hate COVID, I hate the isolation. And I was going, I'm loving. I mean, I don't love the fact that we had COVID and people were dying, but I love the fact that it taught me how to have isolation, but
Mm,
still be connected and not
mm,
allow it to break you.
yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there who's isolated. There's a lot of people who don't have families. There's a lot of people who are alone. There's a lot of people who just stay indoors. Please use this method. It is life-saving. You go out and just not go out and move, but actually be mindful of what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you feeling. And you know, when a baby is crawling, you know, they put everything in their mouth and they feeling, because that's the way they feel, because on their tongue, it's the most sensitive part of their body at that point in time, because they haven't developed proper nerve endings and the ability to use sensory engagement with their hands yet, because their mobility and their cognitive brain hasn't developed in that area. So everything goes in the mouth. So they feel everything with the mouth. Well, I'm not saying go out there and taste everything. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm saying actually use your hands more to feel surfaces, we've stopped feeling and using our hands to be connected. So feel surfaces, feel different things, and be mindful of what it's creating inside of you.
Mm, yeah, most definitely. And I think it's really fascinating, isn't it, how we work as humans, how we're wired, how we grow, you know, babies, how they develop. Um, you know, you mentioned, here my dog's barking. You mentioned like
Creation, barking.
creation. Yeah, great. Yeah, like noise. So, you know, so there's different things that all tie into our experience. And like you said, for feeling isolated in COVID
Mm,
was something that you was able to grow within. And I think a lot of people in that period, you know, were seeking things external,
yeah.
external and happiness and things, and relying on things that are external. And yes, we have to connect with the outside world and other people, but you know, we kind of have, you know, everything within us as well. Like you said, like, you know, what you've used in your situation.
Yeah, I was reading, I don't know if you've ever read the book of, oh, he was in one of the concentration camps.
Oh,
Frank,
Victor,
Frank,
is it?
Frankel. Yeah, that's it. Viktor Frankl, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Man's Search for Meaning. I started reading it actually. I've got it.
Yeah, I read that so many times, you know, during the last 3 years. And one of the things that just has been branded and tattooed on my heart is that, I don't know if you've got to that point where he only had a piece of bread. He had nothing, and he had a piece of bread in his pocket, and he was saving it. You know, he was hungry, he was starving, and he was just saving it. It was full of mold, but he was still saving it for what he would call a rainy day. And he found meaning in the fact that he kept that bread in his pocket, which gave him hope that today is not as bad as maybe the future would be. And it was his way of surviving. And that's what's beautiful about the human body, is it's got this survival mode deeply entrenched in every cell, in every organ. And if we dig deep, if we ever go through another world war, or God forbid, or any tragedy or anything, my utmost pleading with anyone out there is to find the survival mode within yourself, and not only just to survive, but to find the pleasure in that. And that's what these last 3 years have taught me. That's what COVID has taught me, that if you look within and you use whatever you've got from within, if you haven't got anything external, it's taken away from you, it's your dignity, anything, just go within. There is something in there. I don't know what it is. I call it the feminine energy because I'm female. I'm sure males have it, or the gut instinct, but just go within and find that little spark that'll just keep you going, and ignite that, infuse into that little spark every little thing you see, hear, feel, and just make it grow every second of your life, because that will make you radiate and be beautiful, and then you can help other people.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's what we have to do, isn't it? We have to go within and really go deep and, use that light that we have within us, that spark to push
Yeah,
through, that
yeah,
whatever darkness is kind of thrown at us, it's drawing from that, isn't it? And I think, we all have that within us, really. It's making that choice and deciding to use that, to push forward.
I love that push forward, because whenever I'm going through a hard time, I always use the word push, because it stands for persevere under severe hardship. And that's all it is. You don't have to move mountains, you don't have to move the problem. Just keep pushing in whatever way you can to get through that. And when you look at humans today, I think the majority of people do that. We're not some people's tenacity, endurance is phenomenal, and we can only learn from them. And this is what these podcasts do, isn't it? We're learning from different people in different
Mm,
ways on how they've done it. And if we can take that as a collective,
mm,
write it down, and take, even if somebody doesn't remember the whole podcast today, just take one thing,
mm.
just take one thing from the podcast and massively implement it right now as we finish. Massively implement that one thing. And that if you're consistent, that's pushing, that's persevering, under severe hardship.
Mm. No, I love that, and I think it's so true, isn't it? We have to implement things and put them in place, and I think there's a lot of goodness and a lot of good advice that is in this episode that we've just been recording, and I think people will benefit a lot from this episode, and I just want to thank you for being on here and sharing your story and having this conversation. And like, where can people find you on social media, your website, that kind of thing?
Yes, my website is www.champagnelifecoaching.com, and you can find me on Champagne Life Coaching on Facebook, Champagne Life Coaching on LinkedIn, as well as my handle the same on Instagram. But of course, if anybody wants any more details, they can contact you, and I'd love to give you my details and you can pass them on.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, I'd love to do that. And I just keep up the awesome work what you're doing. It's it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I think you're doing a great job. And we'll have to do this again sometime, and look forward to it.
I love that, because Adam, there's so much I've got more to
Yeah.
share with the community. And what I love about your work is that you are so diverse. You help so many people out there, and you are so willing to give people this knowledge through your platform, which is an amazing platform. And thank you. I'm honored, and it's been a pleasure. And you are an amazing person.
Thank you so much. That's really, really lovely to say, and it really means a lot. And I'm grateful for you being on here, and I think it's a great way to put out the positive content, isn't it? And I I'm happy to be on your show if you want me on yours, or if
Yes,
ever
I'd
wants
love
to do
you
anything
to.
on your side. Yeah,
Yes, I love you too. It's going to be all females, but I think when it comes from, it's not about gender. When it comes from a place of experience and a place of genuine sincerity, that's when we touch people's hearts. Because at the end of the day, whatever gender we are, we're human, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely, definitely. And yeah, no, I look forward to it, and I hope you have a great weekend, and look forward to connecting with you again.
And as one of your posts said on your
Yeah,
Instagram story, it's Friday and it's Friday.
yeah, yeah, Friday, yeah, exactly.
So thank you very much, and the same to you. Have a wonderful weekend, and
Thank you,
all the positive vibes going out to you. And
thank you.
please try 5 4 3 2 1 and give me feedback.
Yeah, I will do, and I'll tell other people about it as well and show them this episode.
I'm so happy. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.